Hi, and welcome back to our third and final segment of our series on medicinal oils. Now, during the first two segments, we basically just discussed different herbs, their properties, and their uses. During this segment, we are going to discuss other ingredients that we need to make the oils and also supplies. So the first thing we're going to need to determine is what type of oil we're going to use. There are three oils that are commonly used when making medicinal oils that are going to be applied externally to the skin. So first, in order to decide what oil we're going to use, we're first going to determine what herbs we're going to use. And for this demonstration, we're going to use rosemary and neem. So, since the neem is going to be an oil to treat skin conditions such as psoriasis and eczema, then what we're going to want to use is a thin oil that's not going to clog your pores if you need to put it on your face. So, the three oils that are typically used for medicinal oils are apricot oil, grapeseed oil, and olive oil. But since we are making neem infused oil, we're going to rule out the olive oil because it's a little thicker. The only time that I would use olive oil would be if I was making a healing hand balm or healing hand cream for dry skin for my hands or feet. Then I would use olive oil because it's thicker and it would be cover my skin better. It wouldn't absorb as quickly as grapeseed oil or apricot oil. So the other two remaining oils are the grapeseed oil and the apricot oil. Well, the apricot oil is not only expensive, but it's hard to find. So we're going to use grapeseed oil for the simple fact of economy. First of all, it's less expensive. Secondly, you can pick up a bottle of this on the aisle with the oils at Walmart or your grocery store, but it's cheaper at Walmart. So I purchased this bottle of Pompeian grapeseed oil, and it was about $5 and change, and it's 24 fluid ounces, which is a pint and a half. So now I've already began to pour the oil over my herbs, and what you need to do is have your dried herbs in the bottom of your pint jar and put just enough oil to cover it, as I've done with the rosemary. I've also started to pour a little bit of oil over my neem, but as you'll notice, it was packed so tightly it almost looks like a sludge at this point. So I've had to stir it, and now I'm going to pour some more oil. You want to make sure all of the neem leaves are saturated. You don't want the oil just to sit on top of it. So I'm going to stir it, make sure they're saturated, and then I'm going to pour just a little bit more oil, and then we'll be ready to move to the next step. Okay, so now the top layer of neem is floating, so that means we've got enough oil. Now the next thing you need is some type of pot or pan that is oven safe to use for the double boiler method that I mentioned in segment 1. Now in segment 1, when I was speaking about making the fenugreek oil with the double boiler method on the stove top, this is a really ineffective and inefficient method of extracting oil, because when you extract it on a stove top, you have to stand over it constantly and check it. You have to make sure all your water's not evaporated and things like that. When you use the oven method, you don't have to do that. You can check it once an hour or once every 30 minutes if you feel more comfortable checking it once every 30 minutes. But the next supply you will need is an oven-safe pan that's going to be thick enough that it can hold water, and these jars are not going to tip over, because you don't want these to spill out and everything get mixed in the water you're going to have to throw everything away. So I do not recommend using any type of thin aluminum roasting pan or anything like that. What I use is a glass roasting pan, and I have that already prepared. And I've got about a ½ inch of water already in the bottom. So before we go any further, I have got my oven already preheated, and I'm going to, and I've turned it off, it's still warm though, I'm going to turn it back on to 200 degrees because that's what temperature you're going to want to use. 200 degrees. That's just warm enough that it's going to heat your water, and the water in turn is going to heat the oil that's in the jars. You never want to put the oil over direct heat because it will fry your herbs. But the indirect heat from the hot water surrounding the jar that has the oil in it will effectively extract the ingredients. So I'm going to go ahead and set my neem and my rosemary into my roasting pan. And I want to make sure I've got just enough water that it's going to surround the oil in the jars without making the jars float. And I've got a little extra water over here in a pot just in case. So that's going to be enough. Now I'm going to place this in the oven. Be very careful not to spill. Okay, at this point there's nothing else to do besides just wait. You can check it every 30 minutes to an hour, but basically what we're looking at is 8 hours time here. So this is an all-day event. You're going to want to do this one day. Like if you work Monday through Friday, you're home on Saturday, you can pop all this in the oven and let it be extracting while you're doing laundry and cleaning house. It's that simple. Okay, as I stated earlier, I already have some lavender essential oil prepared, but it has not been strained yet. So the next two things that I need is I need something to strain it in and strain it with. So what I usually do is use hosiery to strain it with. This is just a little knee-high thing. It's not a knee-high, it's just really a footy that just goes over your foot. And I have put that over the top of a measuring cup. And I'm going to take the oil that I made last night that I left out to cool, and I'm just going to pour it through the hosiery into the measuring glass. Now once this is finished, you're going to need something already ready to put it in. So I have washed and let air dry a glass bottle, which some of you may recognize as a Starbucks bottle. You can also use a pint jar, but all my pint jars were in use with herbs in them. So once this has been completely strained, and this is why I'm using a measuring cup, by the way, because once it's completely strained, then all I have to do is just pour it over into the jar, and I have a spout. See how clear that is? The only thing left to do at this point is to put the lid on it and label it. And there we have our instructions on how to make medicinal oils. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.